My name is Chief Sean Barnes, Shonbarnes. I'm the Chief of Police for the Seattle Police Department. Thank you for taking your time to be here today. As I often said, it's important to be transparent about things that are going on regarding public safety and how important that is to everyone here in the city of Seattle. A big part of what I try to do with this administration is to be as transparent as possible and to be as communicative as possible. I want to communicate with our community so that they know the things and decisions that we make that affect your public safety. I did a blotter post this weekend, which is why some of you are here, which simply states that over the past 4 days, the Seattle community has tragically experienced three separate incidents of gun violence resulting from the loss of life, resulting in the loss of human potential, leaving more victims than just the person who lost their lives. On Thursday, we were confronted with a targeted homicide occurring in front of a place of worship. While the motive for this premeditated attack is still under investigation, we recognize the profound impact it has had on those who witnessed this traumatic incident. I'm told that over 20 people may have been outside at the time of this incident, as well as how this impacts the broader community. Earlier this year, obviously, as I tried to get to know the city, I did community walks in that neighborhood, being familiar with the universities around that area as well. I even got a tour when my son was here of that area and how gorgeous it is and how much they provide for our community here in Seattle. So it affects not just the person who lost their life, their family, not just the church, the place of worship, but also the community. In the early Sunday morning hours of Sunday, two additional homicides occurred. The first stemmed from an unauthorized or unregulated gathering, which culminated in the loss of another community member, often known as a rave or a party, which I've been told today from our gun screening meeting has occurred in this city for a very, very long time. And so today we work to talk about how do we get in front of that? How do we look for signs of it? How do we make sure that if people are gathering, which is fine, they gather in a way that's proper. And so at the end of the night, people can go home the same way they came. Shortly thereafter, a third homicide was reported involving an individual discovered deceased in a parking lot. We do not know the motive of this, whether it was related to a collision or some type of altercation or targeted event. Our officers are still working really hard, detectives and investigators. For this one, we are looking at public space cameras and seeing that there are cameras in the intersection trying to track where this person may have come from. But at this time, we have no leads. Our dedicated officers, detectives, and crime scene investigators are actively engaging in all three investigations, pursuing leads with the utmost diligence. Officers worked some very, very long hours this weekend. We have an analytical team, our real-time crime center. If you have not had an opportunity to see that, you should set that up and we can give you a demonstration. But I think most of you came when the mayor was here as well. They will help us in looking at public space camera footage, digital records, insights, and trying to figure out the circumstances that, of course, led to that tragic loss of life. My purpose as your chief of police is to reassure and to assure the public that we are committed to preventing further incidents of gun violence. Achieving this goal requires the collaboration of everyone in the criminal justice system. Oftentimes I've heard that, we just need more help from other people, and that is true. But what I will tell you is the meeting that we had today, we have this meeting twice a week. There are people on that meeting from all parts of the criminal justice system. Obviously, the courts are not on there, but we have prosecutors that are on there. We have a city's attorney office on there. The mayor's office is on there with us. And so it's a collaborative working meeting. We assess every incident of gun crime, every incident. and we go through it, we dissect it just like they would do in the medical profession, looking at what we could have done better, who do we need help with, how can we strengthen cases so that when we do bring cases toward in front of a judicial official, that person is held accountable for their crime. We also have our partners, our federal partners on that call as well. And I found out today that one of our gun crimes, the feds have decided that they're going to take that case because of this person's actions, their past actions. They're still carrying guns and they're still using those guns. And the federal partners have decided to take that case. So they would not have done that had we not had these meetings to be cooperative and to talk about what's actually going on in these cases and how to strengthen our response. Again, achieving this goal requires collaboration between the criminal justice system and our community. We need the community's help. We cannot do our jobs alone. We need people to call early and often when you see signs of violence, which is usually an altercation, some sort of disagreement, or if you see people brandishing firearms, the time to call is early. So we can try to do what we can to be there to prevent that from happening in the first place. We encourage anyone to report indicators of potential violence that they may observe, as early intervention is critical to prevention. It's very important that I say that we encourage you to call, right? We do not want people becoming involved beyond your level of expertise. The Seattle Police Department continuously analyzes and screens all incidents of violence in our city. We refine our strategies to enhance safety and to prevent future occurrences. Our department holds meetings twice a week, as I talked about, to discuss violent crime trends and to determine resource allocations based on data-driven approaches, assessments, and needs. Now, that meeting is a collaborative meeting between everyone, but commanders meet daily. So I want to be clear about that. Our collaboration meeting that I talked about, we call it our gun screenings, that occurs twice a week, but the commanders, they meet daily. We urge anyone with information about the cases that I mentioned to call our tip line at 206-233-5000, 206-233-5000. Together, we can work tirelessly to ensure that justice is served for our victims this week and to maintain the safety and security of our system, of our city. We have to work together as a system, I think, in order to prevent these crimes. It's not just the police. It takes everyone. We're committed. I'm committed to that collaboration. It's work that this department has always done, and it's work that I've done throughout my career, and I want to continue to do that. So I'll take a few questions.
Can you tell us which case that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Your office, Mayor Harrell's office, has been working to expand the color surveillance camera program. How do you see this program working to counteract some of the spikes in crime that you've seen in the last few years?
Well, we have already seen it work. We do have a case study for you where we were able to arrest a suspect who not only pistol whipped someone, but actually shot them in the process. We see it as putting the cameras where we're seeing upticks and historic spikes in crime, and we need every tool that we have. We can't put a police officer on every street corner, which is what some people would want and some people would not want, and I don't think that's the way we want to go. But we also want to leverage technology as a force multiplier in everything that we do.
You said the feds are taking over a case. Which one is that?
It's not one of the ones that happened this weekend. It was one of the ones that we screened earlier in the year. I can get that information for you a little later. Yes.
Did you, of these three fatal shootings, were you guys able to recover any illegal guns, any stolen guns?
We did recover guns. I won't speak to the specific cases because we're still trying to determine if it belonged to the suspect or if it was a bystander's gun. Still trying to find the origin of those guns, but we do recover guns often in some of these cases.
You mentioned the rave and discussing maybe ways of gathering in a proper way.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to this, I mean, it seems like there were hundreds of people at this particular rave and in past raves as well. I mean, are there regulations in place? What are those regulations?
Yeah, so this is something that I'm learning about as a police officer for 25 years. I've never gotten invited to one, so I don't know the origins and how these things work. but our intelligence unit is working to discover. They do a lot of work. They do it for a living as well, as what I always tell people, to make sure that they can gather and have a good time without regulation, right? And that's okay if everyone's going to leave the same way they come. But when we have incidents of gun violence, then we have to look at regulations. We have to look at how they're getting the building. Is it permitted? Are they selling alcohol, or are they providing illegal drugs for people? So yes, there's a lot of regulation involved, just like anyone else, if they decided to have a gathering and have people there.
Are you in communications with the organizers of these raves?
We're not in communication with them. We often find out after the fact, and so we then try to determine who they are. But again, it's usually after the fact. But unfortunately, because we had a tragedy, we have to, right? And we have to determine, like, hey, what's going on here and what may have led up to this tragic incident. Again, the idea is that they have them unregulated and they have them without regulation from people, and they certainly do not let us know. I would like for them to do so. I would like for them to call and say, hey, we're having a rave, we're having a big party, this is where it's going to be. Can you send some cars by? But that hasn't happened yet.
I was gonna say, for the shooting that happened on Thursday, could you elaborate who exactly was targeted? Was it the victim? Do we know that at this point, or was it the place of worship, or both?
We know that the place of worship was likely not the target. We know that the person who unfortunately lost his life was the target. There were multiple people standing there, and certainly if they were intent on hurting other people, they would have done that.
We've just kind of celebrated a real nice drop in violent crime in the city, and no sooner than we do that, than we have this rash of shootings. Is there any concern that this may be kind of a turn in that trend? And if so, what do you do to kind of head it off?
Yeah, the only concern is whenever we talk about crime going down, crime immediately goes up the following weekend. So I say that to say we are diligent and we are consistent in everything that we do. One of the things that I've seen as a mistake throughout the course of my career is we do initiatives, and some police departments, they don't stick with those. They wait for things to go down and then they move resources. No, we're not going to do that. I like our plan. I like the priority areas that we've identified through the community, through crime analysis, and we're going to stick to our plan. We're going to make sure that we can make adjustments when we can, but we don't believe that just because we had one weekend spike that we're going to do something that's not going to keep you safe. So we want to continue working with the other parts of the criminal justice system, working with community members. We want to make sure that when we can be places for proactive patrols or emphasis patrols, what we call them here, that we do that. Again, one weekend does not make the entire year, but I thought it was very important, as chief of police, to be out and let you know what we saw this weekend, let you know what we're doing, and let people know that we're committed to our plan. Yes, sir.
Chief, I was gonna say, you go out to these scenes, you see the victims, you see the community, you see your officers working. What sticks with you? What stands out to you from having been in these cases?
Wow, it's an excellent question. The impact. So the word that comes to mind right now is impact. And it's not just the impact on the person who obviously lost their lives, but I see the family members. I see the officers as well. The look in their eyes when they're looking for every piece of evidence in grass. I see the community members as they gather behind some of your cameras and wanted to know what happened in their community. I see people coming out, driving by. Everyone knows that something has happened that has not contributed to their safety. And so the word would be impact.
We're gonna do one
Yes.
last question, Sarah Jane.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Hi.
I was late.
Sorry.
So my understanding is that the rave after party was on
Mhm.
city property, and there had been a plan to gate it or fence it, but that hasn't happened. And then second part, the 4th Avenue South shooting, I understand that was connected to Urban Lounge, which, is there any? plans
Yeah,
to
I
clear
don't
that
I don't know if that was connected to Urban Lounge, but I do know that Urban Lounge is certainly something that we discussed today during our gun screening. There's been incidences there, and as everyone knows, I track the entertainment venues and whether or not crime is occurring there. We have two ordinances that I use or have used before. And if we do determine that there's a connection there, then you all know what I will do. The first question was it on city property? I unfortunately do not know the answer to that question, but I will tell you this. We often make recommendations for environmental designs on all properties, city properties and private properties. But sometimes it takes a little bit longer to do some of those designs. But certainly if we had made that recommendation or someone made that recommendation, it certainly is an opportunity to look into that. But again, that doesn't mean it could not have been defeated. It doesn't mean that they didn't have a plan B or it could have been moved somewhere else. But that's a great question. Thank you so much for being here. The last thing that I will say is certainly, this was a busy weekend for us. And I know I'm going to forget something, but Mariners game, Seafair, the basketball game, soccer, the park, parade. Like there was a lot going on. And, we had a lot of people in our city. We had a lot to manage with the cooperation of a lot of people. And certainly we had some unfortunate incidents of gun violence. But I think there's a lot of work to be done. We're ready to do that work. We evaluate, assess, and we try to get better each and every day as a law enforcement community. And so my job here is just to communicate that to you. And thank you so much for being here and being able to be a part of our community as members of the press. Thank you.